10 years ago, I had a net worth of $0, no inheritance, no secret advantage, and a 2.8 GPA in college. I worked jobs I hated, made infinite dumb money mistakes, and I had no clue how to build wealth. If you can relate, you're not alone. So in this video, I'll share 5 lessons that took me from broke to $1 million net worth in 10 years. More importantly, I'll show you the biggest mistakes to avoid so you can get there faster than I did. I was 17 when I got my first job as a busboy, making a minimum wage of $7 per hour. This is when I started investing my money, right? No, I literally spent every penny. I financed a car I couldn't afford, Scion TC, great car, bought music equipment because I was in a band. Building wealth wasn't even a thought. It's kind of like when you're spraying and praying in a video game while not paying attention to your ammo. That was me, but with my money. Fortunately, I was making one investment that completely changed my life, and that's learning valuable skills. I used to think that there was some magical shortcut to getting rich, some secret side hustle or hidden business hack that would blow up my bank account overnight. The problem is, most of those get-rich-quick schemes end up costing you money instead of making you rich. Think about it. The odds of winning the lottery, 1 in 300 million. Making money from stocks and crypto trading, less than 3% are actually successful. And even starting a business too early often fails because you don't have the skills to make it work, at least not yet. The faster you embrace the get-rich-slow mindset, the faster you'll actually start building wealth. So why do we need skills? Well, the main way we're gonna build wealth is by investing our income. The idea is that the more money you make, the more money you can invest, and the faster we can hit our financial goals. So we need to learn skills that pay well. After high school, I had no idea what to do in life. So I went to a local community college, and after exploring and meeting with counselors, I chose electronics and computer engineering as a major, mainly because there were lots of jobs and it paid well. Okay, but it also sounded pretty interesting. But here's where I screwed up. I failed classes because I didn't take things seriously. I avoided hard courses because I was scared of failing. I never asked questions in class because I didn't want to sound stupid. Yet somehow I managed to transfer to the university down the street. While working on that degree, I made lots of friends, joined a club, became an officer in that club, and was fairly involved on campus. This entire time, I was living at home with my family and working part-time. It's because of this, I was finally able to start investing my money. That was a lie. I leased an electric car instead. 4 years later, I graduated, and it took nearly a year to land my first job, thanks to my friend Nick, who referred me. He's someone I met in class who also became an officer in the club I joined. It was at this point where I finally understood the expression, your network is your net worth. So they offered a salary of $50,000 per year as a software test engineer, but after some negotiating, we landed on $53,000. Always negotiate. Cool, so that's my story about learning valuable skills and mistakes I made. Here's how you're gonna do way better. So your main options for learning high-paying skills are college, trade school, or some kind of certification program. Don't blindly choose anything. Spend a considerable amount of time researching. Again, now is not the time to start a t-shirt business with your friend. We'll get to that later. If you choose the college route and don't know what to major in, go to a local community college. Do not go to a university, especially one that's out of state. Let's try to minimize the amount of debt we accrue. Community college is not only accessible, but a fairly low-cost option. But whatever path you choose, take advantage of financial aid and scholarships. Working a part-time job here can also be extremely powerful, but only if the money is used for school and or investing, which we'll cover in a bit. Now is the time to be frugal, so avoid buying a car you can't afford because it's a guaranteed way to nerf your wealth building capabilities. If you did finance a car, your monthly car expenses should be no more than 10% of your income. If it's more, consider ditching that car for an old beater. I'm begging you guys, please avoid the car trap because people get wrecked all the time. We can do the side quests once we beat the main game. I get it though, those side quests can be quite distracting. Living at home is also key here, guys. I know it's not possible for everyone, but if it's an option, try to deal with your family. I know they can be a pain sometimes because college is only getting more expensive, so take advantage of ways to minimize your expenses. While you're working on learning skills, you need to start building a network. This means making friends in classes, joining clubs, or going to networking events. Guys, having a strong network is so OP, it's like having aimbot in Counter-Strike or Valorant. I've gotten multiple job interviews because of my network. Lastly, take things seriously. Don't goof off like I did, okay? Ask questions, get help. The longer this process takes, the slower you're gonna build wealth. So let's get that income as soon as possible. Cool, so we learned high value skills, built a network, and now have a steady paycheck. Time to put that money to work. I remember sitting at my first job, scrolling through stock charts with my coworker Eric, thinking we were damn geniuses. We convinced ourselves that we could trade stocks and time the market, buy low, sell high. So we bought stocks like Microsoft and AMD, then sold them as soon as they went up in value a little bit. Easy money, right? Wrong. Studies show that over 90% of people who trade stocks like this lose money. For example, during a stock market crash in October 2014, investors who sold the majority of their stocks lost 19%, while the people who took little to no action only lost 3%. Fortunately, we got super lucky and didn't lose money. But even then, we ended up paying higher taxes on our profits because we didn't hold our investments for at least a year. You can see in these charts how much more favorable long-term capital gains taxes are. So while the stock market was the main tool I used to build wealth, I could have done way better if I followed these lessons earlier. First, understand the difference between saving money and long-term investing. Let's say you save $500 per month in a bank account. After 40 years of hard work, that's only $240,000, which is why Warren Buffett says, if you don't find a way to make money in your sleep, you will work until you die. The stock market as a whole has returned over 11% per year on average in the last 50 years. Factoring this number into our previous calculation gives us over $3 million, or $1.2 million after inflation. We can even avoid paying taxes on this money by using special investment accounts that we'll talk about later. Now, saving money for the short term is also essential for emergencies and other short-term goals. We just want to avoid hoarding all our cash because each year, inflation will decrease the value of each dollar we have. It's kind of like a hidden tax. The next mistake you're going to want to avoid is waiting to invest. I would have made over $200,000 if I started investing $500 per month starting at age 17. When I got my first job. The best thing you have going for you, especially if you're young, is time, which can also work against you if you wait for the best time to invest. Eric and I did exactly that, and we missed out on opportunities to build long-term wealth. A better strategy, according to Vanguard and Schwab, is called lump sum investing. If you have $5,000 to work with, invest it immediately. Studies show that this strategy outperforms dollar cost averaging nearly 70% of the time. Dollar cost averaging means you would divide that $5,000 by 12 and invest smaller amounts every month, regardless of what happens in the market. Both are great strategies, so pick whichever one you're most comfortable with. I've been doing a mix of both for 10 years, and I can tell you, they both work. Next, we want to prioritize tax-advantaged accounts like 401ks and Roth IRAs. These accounts can help you skyrocket your wealth because they come with amazing tax benefits. Your employer might even have a 401k match where they contribute their money to your account based on your contributions, essentially free money. Let me know in the comments below if you want a dedicated video on this topic, and be sure to subscribe while you're down there so you can learn how to be a rich nerd. Now, in terms of what to invest in or what not to invest in, individual stocks. The price of a company's stock is not guaranteed to go up. In fact, many have gone down and haven't recovered, which is why it's a bad idea to, as gamers say, put all your experience points in just one stat. As gamers, we call this min-maxing, right? What's crazy is 90% of financial professionals, we're talking financial advisors, financial analysts, can't consistently beat the stock market with the stocks they choose. So instead, invest in index funds that spread your money across thousands of companies around the world. If any of these companies stop doing well, they'll get replaced by a better one, and you don't lift a finger. The last tip I have is to ignore the news. As someone who makes a living off social media, I can confidently tell you that news outlets use clickbait headlines, so you click on them. Clicks equals money, money from ads, affiliate links, etc. So it's in their best interest to say things like trillions of dollars were wiped out from the stock market today. Ignore the news, ignore your broke-ass friends, just keep investing. Now, stocks aren't the only way to build wealth. For example, I'm a huge fan of cryptocurrencies. I invested in Bitcoin and Ethereum years ago, and more so in recent years, making a decent amount. The thing is, not only are they extremely volatile, but everything besides Bitcoin is speculative in my opinion, meaning at any point, they could be completely worthless. I learned this the hard way by investing thousands of dollars into a few highly speculative ones and lost every penny. Fortunately, it was only a tiny portion of my net worth. So I won't recommend investing in crypto, but I absolutely suggest you learn about them, specifically Bitcoin. Overall, the lesson here is invest, be patient, and just let time do the heavy lifting. Cool, so how much do we need to invest to get to $1 million in 10 years? Well, assuming a 10% return, you need $5,000 per month or $60,000 per year. I'm not talking about income, that's how much you need to invest. So now you see why we spend so much time on the first part of this video, right? Naturally, the next thing we should focus on is increasing our income. The main way I did this was through my career. While working that first job out of college, I found an opportunity to solve a critical problem the company was having. So I spent various nights and weekends working on a solution that later turned into a promotion and a $15,000 increase in salary. If I had to do it all over again, I would first understand the promotion process at your company. Do not blindly work harder and pray that senpai is going to notice you, because there's a good chance it'll be all for nothing. Talk to your manager, learn what the expectations are, then work with them to create a plan and meet regularly to ensure you're on track. That being said, there is a better way to increase your income. After 2 years of working at that first company, I decided to move to another one. This one job hop increased my salary by another $20,000. And I repeated this process a few times over 7 years until I reached a $230,000 salary. Keep in mind though, I only made this much for a short period of time and made plenty of mistakes that we'll talk about in the next section. Studies show that job hoppers typically receive a salary increase of around 10% compared to the 5% for those staying in their current roles. Of course, this depends on the job market, which isn't too hot right now. Overall though, job hopping is a great way to increase your salary, especially compared to negotiating with your current employer. Now, the last way I increased my income was by starting a side business. This didn't have too big of an impact on my net worth, but it eventually became my full-time job, arguably more important than $1 million net worth. More on this later though. The thing about starting a side business is you already have limited time, right? Therefore, you may not want to start something that is purely dependent on your time. In other words, if your business requires you to meet with clients in exchange for money, your income is now capped at whatever amount of time you have available, which may not be the best if you want to build wealth fast. Although if it's something you enjoy, I say do it because it could turn into something more valuable than money. Otherwise, focus on a business that makes money while you sleep. Selling digital products is a great example. You don't necessarily need to be present for people to make a purchase. You can create content on social media to promote it and don't even need to show your face. Overall though, a good place to start is with the skills you currently have. Do some research to see how you can monetize them. And I think you'd be surprised on what you can do online these days. By far, the biggest tip I have here is to stick with it. It took me years to make money on social media, and I wanted to quit so many times. So if you have a good product or service, stick with it through the lows and the highs. Now, making a lot of money is great, but lots of people still live paycheck to paycheck despite this. One reason why is lifestyle creep. This is when your standard of living rises alongside your income. Eventually, things that used to be luxuries become necessities. This started with my first car, continued with more cars, eating out often, and living in a fancy part of town. If I avoided this one damn mistake, I could have easily become financially free by now, but you're not gonna make that mistake. You're gonna continue living like a student, you're gonna drive an old Japanese car into the ground, live at home or with roommates, and be intentional with your spending. Now, I'm not saying avoid lifestyle creep at all costs, or don't spend money on things you enjoy. Some lifestyle creep is fine. Buying things you enjoy is fine. Just prioritize investing and be mindful of where your money is going. It's up to you guys on how aggressive you want to be. Now, one of the best ways to do this is to avoid managing your money up here. Write it down on a spreadsheet, download a money management app, the one I use is linked below, and again, do not stop investing. The last thing I want to talk about is something I didn't learn until recently, something more important than money, and that is mindset. The happiness I gained from every salary increase was always short-lived. I constantly moved the goalposts and never stopped to reflect. I would tell myself, once I make $80,000, I'll be good. And after that, I'd say, okay, 100K, and I'm golden. The more I did this, the less impactful each additional salary increase was, and the more I felt lost. This is common even among ultra high net worth individuals. I felt the same even after buying new cars and living in fancy apartments. Studies consistently show that material possessions, right, cars, phones, graphics cards, fail to deliver long-term happiness, and that experiences provide more long-lasting happiness. Makes sense, right? So instead of buying expensive jewelry, make some with your friends. I'm not even joking, my friends and I went to this one blacksmithing class and we made some rings. It was badass. But hey, if rapidly growing your net worth is something you want, great. Just make sure it's for the right reasons. For example, I thought I wanted to retire early, but it turns out I just wanted to enjoy what I was doing, which is this. So if you start a side hustle you enjoy and you have an opportunity to turn it into your main hustle, then rapidly building your wealth may seem like less of a priority. At least that was the case for me. The mistake to ultimately avoid here is failing to enjoy the process of working towards a goal. If you think about it, most of your time is spent working towards them. And as we learned earlier, achieving your goals is usually short-lived anyways. Look, building $1 million net worth is challenging, but at the same time, I'm not that special. If you take the right steps today, it's not a matter of if, but when. More importantly, the next time you're grinding through a video game, trying to level up or unlock achievements, remember, enjoy the process. Speaking of achievements, watch this video where I break down the money achievements you should unlock in your 20s. And for more ways to be a rich nerd, be sure to subscribe.